This isn't any regular heat. This is nuclear heat. Live from the 93.7 The Ticket studios in the heart of Lincoln, America. Bringing you the latest from the Square Circle on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here is your host, Jake Bockoven.
That's right, it is time to talk some wrestling here on 93.7 The Ticket. We do it every Sunday at this time, so tell all your wrestling friends. That's right, I'm talking pro wrestling here on The Ticket. I'm Jake Bachman alongside my tag team partner and Nuclear Heat contributor, Augie Pena. Augie, of course, decked out in his Eagles gear. It's been working. They won the Super Bowl last year. Now off to a, 4-0 start for the Eagles?
Yeah. I'm not, knock on wood, knock on everything. Since I got this Saquon jersey as a Christmas present last year, they have not lost when I've worn it. So I just, gotta keep it going.
Yeah.
I wash it. Don't worry, guys. I wash it. But for the rest of the season, during our shows, if they truly fall on Sundays, you will see me in this jersey and cat combo.
Well, I got to tell you, some people would say not to wash it. That might ruin it at this point.
Yeah, I've been washing it because sometimes when I eat, I'm still I'm a in my 30-year-old kid. So I do get it a little bit dirty and have to wash it and all that stuff. So it's been working.
Yeah.
I think the Eagles have. I was going to say I don't play for the Eagles, so
Yeah.
wish. But I think the Eagles have won 18 straight games now, and like 20 out of the last 21. So
wow.
I mean, they're about to give me heart attacks, but they've
been pulling out some close ones.
Yeah, it's fun because we're winning, but the way we're winning right now is I would take blowouts. Us blowing them out opposed to kind of what we've been doing the last 4 games.
Well, you sound a little bit. I think just about every other fan in the NFL wishes they were in your place. So you sound a little bit spoiled there, but
I know. Hey, I've seen 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime. I'm Husker fan. Obviously, haven't seen a lot of national championships. This is really the only pro sport where I've had, in my lifetime, I've seen the team I root for win multiple championships. So, kind of got to go with it.
Yeah. At least, I'd say we're your NFL team every week. My Cardinals don't, I don't have as much pride in them, so I don't usually do that as much. But we'll see how they do. Interesting week of wrestling. As we move on from WrestlePalooza and look forward to Crown Jewel, October 11th. This week was, of course, after the premium live event. We talked about WrestlePalooza last week. I would say the Raw and SmackDown after the premium live events are some of my favorites because they get you going into some new feuds. You can kind of see what direction they're going for their next premium live event or long-term storytelling. I thought Raw was really good, very exciting. SmackDown, I thought had its moments, and then the end really just ruined a lot of it, and it was really the talk of SmackDown, unfortunately. So we can start there. I mean, both had great booked main events, if you want to put it that way. Over on Raw, we'll get to Asuka and Rhea Ripley and in kind of the blow up there with Io Sky involved. But I do want to start with Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax and Jade Cargill there on SmackDown. Unfortunately, we're not going to be talking too much about the match here or the booking. It was miscommunication at the end that was really a disaster for how this all played out. So if you didn't watch the match, at some point, Nia Jax busted open Jade Cargill's eyebrow, and she kind of she was tweeting out afterwards kind of how messy that was, how bad that looked. I wonder if that kind of played into some of the plans they had throughout the match. The ref had to kind of go over there and help her a little bit. But then they ended up getting to a point where Cargill did put a move on Jax, and then Stratton comes and knocks Cargill off, covers Nia Jax, and there's a 3 count, or what should be a 3 count. Nia Jax did not break the 3 count, so there was 2, 3. Basically, the ref kind of held up the 2, but there was no breakout. And then you could tell the referee communicating with Jax and with Tiffany Stratton again with the Cargill injury. Maybe it was some sort of maneuver there, but in any case, Tiffany Stratton, after talking with the ref, just did the old what you see usually when there is some miscommunication. Yeah. Oh, go hit your finisher real quick. So she did. They hit the prettiest moonsault ever. She gets the win, still undefeated this year, and will head to the next premium live event and take on the champion. Crown Jewel's kind of champions versus champions, kind of going back into kind of like Survivor Series used to be, I suppose. So we can get in and talk about that if that's a wise decision or not. But anyways, that's where that's headed. Unfortunately, again, I think almost everybody involved in the match is going to be damaged a little bit by this. It's just very sloppy. And the worst part is, we know this is all predetermined. This is all for fun. And so when you really have one of those moments that makes everybody in the crowd kind of think, what are we even doing here? Like, because you're trying to be entertained, but the whole part of it is got to be executed a little bit. It's not real. Some of this kind of miscommunication can happen. So hopefully most people can kind of check it up to that. But too much of that doesn't look too good. It's not the first time it's ever happened in a wrestling match, but Vince's those own rules were just hit 3, roll with it. You got to, if somebody miscommunicates, we'll adjust to that. And this, nowadays they don't necessarily have that. I thought maybe if you're a ref, oftentimes they kind of clear underneath the shoulder, even to begin with. I think maybe you could point that out and at the same time kind of communicate that, but it's a tough position to put a ref in. And again, like I said, this was what Twitter was talking about. This is what the WWE universe was talking about after this SmackDown.
Yeah, it's tough because you can look at it, as to why this happened. The Jade Cargill, I've heard, many people say Nia was trying to be a veteran and told the ref and everybody, hey, she's legitimately hurt. Let's cut this short. But then you watch when Jade, was pinning Nia. Nia kicks out because she notices Tiffany's going to be late. Doesn't really hit anything on Nia. And then, so I think they were the ref was maybe like, hey, you didn't do anything. Nia kicked out and then you came and covered her. How are you going to win that way? But then as soon as, she says 2 and it's not there, both Tiffany and Nia look at her and are like, hey, why aren't you doing that? So that's just really rough. And like you said, I think Charles Robinson even came out and he said, the rule is, hey, you do 3. If the wrestler doesn't count out, they have to deal with that. But, in order to do that. So, a big part on the ref. And I think this ref, she's been around for a while, she knows what's going on there. But, what I thought was a pretty good match, man, that ending, and then all the angles, all the fans, you start to see those come out the next couple of days. It just makes it look even worse, because the fans were like, whoa, no, you get the boos.
The buzz in the room was completely killed.
It was horrible. And, I think Tiffany retaining was the right move, right? Because I think they're being very predictable here. They're going to push Stephanie Vaquera. And so, if Jay would have won, you have 2 newbies. You can't really have, one losing, one winning there like that. So that was something there. But man, such a disappointment. I didn't watch it live, but I caught wind of it. And instantly I had to go and see what was going on, right? So I went and I saw I actually skipped a lot of SmackDown and went straight to the ending. I'm like, what are they talking about? And I was like, oof, that's probably, we talk about botches, all that stuff, but this was like 100% avoidable and just probably one of the biggest ones I've seen, and they could have worked it out in an angle like the Montreal Screwdriver or something like that. They could have, something, but the ref decided not to do 3. And it's the way she paused. She's like 1, 2, and
of course expecting a
kick out. and no kick out happened. And that just, that was just really, really bad. And it, we'll see if we see her on television here for a while, they might take her out. I've heard people saying she probably lose her job. I don't think, she'd probably lose her job. Cause like you said, a lot of people have messed up like that before, but yeah, it was a really rough ending to, I'd say kind of almost even a subpar SmackDown, right? Like it was just a SmackDown episode, but this main event was supposed to be huge for it. Right. And then,
you're right. The main event was kind of what they're looking for. They, and I think that was part of it too, is like the buzz for the show wasn't great to begin with, but at least you had this rematch from Clash in Paris. So they kind of opened up the show with a good angle. Cody, Paul Heyman, everybody involved there, Randy Orton out there. So that gets you excited, but it was just kind of there's some other kind of filler out matches going on throughout that. And then kind of getting to the end here, this was supposed to be the professionals take over and put on a great match. And it just didn't turn out that way. Now I'm surprised. I thought that you might be a little bit more upset at Nia Jax for once again maybe hurting somebody, being too rough in the ring. That's also a part of the discussion online. Was how much can you stop an Irish whip? Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. I saw wrestling fans going back and forth of like, that Irish whip, she put it too hard. And another wrestling fan said, you don't understand. They don't actually have to run through the Irish whip.
Yeah.
And then the other part, and then you fire back. Well, you can push somebody in a fight into something, so you actually use that momentum there. Injuries happen, but Nia Jax does have a history of them happening often when working with her.
Yeah, and I think they even pointed out in 2020 she caused Kairi Sane to have a concussion and bust open by being, I think, Irish whipped onto the to the steel steps, just like she did with Jade. And there's a lot of them where they say she's kind of an unsafe worker. She's, obviously we know Nia Jax is, not in a bad way, but she's big, right? Like,
Right.
she's muscular. She's probably what, 6'1". I don't want to guess the weight.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna do that. But just she's a monster. She is. She's an annihilator. Is what they call her. And sometimes that can, like you said, that could go against her. She could be a lot. And for a Kairi Sane is probably like 5'1", 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So you got a huge difference there. That's like me throwing my 6-year-old niece. It's like, hey, stop yourself. So you don't realize that. So that happens there. But at the same time, I can't be too critical of Nia because we know Jade Cargill's still really green. She's not the best in the ring yet. Things like that happen. And, it's you got somebody who, has a history of hurting people with somebody who's maybe not the best in the ring. That's not the best, but I thought she was looking better, in this match. But it was a cool angle, when she walks up and she starts yelling at the television, you just see the big cut. And I was kind of even like, I was like, ooh, that looks like something there. But, maybe, hopefully, I'm just going to say this. The Nia Jax angle is maybe done now. They can put that aside and they're going to have Tiffany lose at Crown Jewel. But maybe after that, she can have a good feud or lose it and, go somewhere else. Because this ending, this main event kind of just sums up how her title reign has been.
Yeah. I mean, it does. I think it just kind of gets nobody gets a good rub off of this.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. It just kind of dampers everybody that's a part of it. Of course, Nia Jax, as we're kind of pointing out too, originally broke Becky's nose when Becky was wildly hot. And I think that ultimately helped her run.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to get a similar thing necessarily here with Jade Cargill. It's interesting too, as a wrestling fan, to watch that happen, because there's like Crimson Mask. There's like terms in WWE and in wrestling, and blading and stuff like that. So it's always, you're trying to figure out, okay, they're really busted up. Is this part of the show? And of course, with Jey Uso, this recently happened with the chair, coming back up and hitting him in the face. And then here it was just kind of rare. Rarely do you see two people get busted open within like a week or maybe 2 weeks, incidentally. So that was also kind of an interesting part of it. But again, just what a way to to just kill any buzz from SmackDown that was there. By the way, again, a rematch from Clash in Paris, like we were talking about. This has got to be it. I mean, you got to get to a point. You got to do something else. If there's not anything else telling you, take this as a sign, move on, get these people involved in something else.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, not just, Clash in Paris, because, yes, the Jade Cargill, Tiffany, but Nia Jax and Tiffany, they've been feuding for a year. That's who she took the title from. She was their sidekick.
Never cleanly, by the way.
No.
They should have done it immediately. Clean, finished, move on.
And it's just one of those. On the SmackDown side, outside of these two, I mean, they have Alexa and Charlotte, but they're over doing their own thing that is, we'll probably get to later, but that's, something else too there. But other than that, I mean, they don't really have established stars, and that's what you run into, because Charlotte, that failed, with the whole WrestleMania match. I don't think you want to feed Tiffany Stratton to Alexa Bliss, because you can't have Alexa Bliss lose that, and Tiffany obviously can't. So yeah, hopefully and I've been saying this. I like Tiffany as a champion, but I think she needs to lose it and go over to Raw, because then I think that's when things can get really interesting for her.
Yeah, I am interested. You seem to be pretty settled in that she's going to lose at Crown Jewel. I'm interested to see if that is part of the plan, because they have protected her as far as an undefeated streak so far this year. I could see that going all the way to WrestleMania and kind of making it interesting in that realm too. I get what you're saying. They're kind of pushing over La Primera, but
Yeah.
we'll see. That's again, we talk about it, and we might as well bring it up here. Champion versus champion here at Crown Jewel instead of what they usually do when the brands get together at Survivor Series. I don't know if this means they're not going to do it at Survivor Series. I haven't even looked. Maybe Survivor Series is off the card now.
Maybe.
But it's altogether, I think, an interesting way. Usually I'm against it. Like I said, it always kind of just cuts off the buzz of one of your champions. In this particular case, not on the women's side, but on the men's side, where they're doing Cody versus Seth, I think both of them are made men.
Yeah.
And they're not on like a streak. It's not like both of them have taken enough pins lately.
Yeah.
That and when I say lately, within the last year and a half, but I'm saying they haven't like had a 9-month dominating streak or something with their titles. That, and of course, outside interference from the Vision, Brock Lesnar, what might have you. I think it sets it up to where, I don't think either of them lose a whole lot of momentum, as usually the case. Like I said, usually when you do champion versus champion, maybe there's a Drew McIntyre or whatever that's, it's his first run. He's had 6 months. He's trying to get it over, and then he has to go face Roman Reigns. And you're like, this isn't good for either. I mean, neither of them can lose. One of them has to. I think right here, it almost is perfect because I was thinking sitting there, well, what's next for Cody? Are they, and maybe we saw this week, they might finally deliver at some point on RKO and Cody. But I think this is kind of a perfectly interesting feud to lead up to Crown Jewel, where usually I don't like the champion versus champion.
Yeah, I could see that. I just think, Tiffany, she's the established champion, right? And then you have Stephanie, who just won it. I think that surprised a lot of people. People thought it was going to be Io Sky just because of the feud. They're looking like they're going to go with Asuka. Yeah. You thought maybe a championship with that. And Stephanie's only been on the main roster for like 6 months, maybe, on there. So, I think she needs it more than Tiffany does. But at the same time, this Crown Jewel thing, because Liv Morgan won it last year, right?
Yeah.
She beat Nia Jax.
I believe so.
And, of course, this is where it gets foggy because Liv won it last year. She's won. I know she's hurt, but if she wasn't hurt, you don't defend that. It's just kind of a in the moment thing. Whereas Cody won it last year. He's defending, he's back at it again. So that's kind of the thing there. But yeah, I get it. The Cody versus Seth thing, that they're heating it up. They're bringing Paul Heyman in, Brock Lesnar, like you said, kind of, being involved, things like that. So on the men's side, yes, it is getting interesting there. And on the women's side, and then I think on the Survivor Series, I think it's officially just War Games. I think like that's. I think they call it
from that stipulation.
Yeah, like the whole 5 versus 5. I don't think they did that last year, like the SmackDown versus Raw. I think they were just main storylines on there. So I think this is where it goes. And then I'm just going to kind of throw this in there. I just realized Crown Jewel is going to start at 7 a.m. for us here on Saturday. So we'll see. I'm normally up pretty early, but Saturdays are our basketball mornings. So we'll have to. And I got roped into doing something that Saturday. So I'm actually going to be running in the market to market.
Hey, there you go.
So I'll be up, but I don't know. I might be running like 3 miles at that time.
Can you just keep your phone out when you're running?
I probably could, and that might help me, because doing the 3 or 4 miles at a time. We'll have to see. But okay, you know what? It's not that big of a deal. I'll be up at like 3 a.m.
Well, of course, there'll be college football the whole afternoon, that whole day too. So. As usual, in wrestling and college football go on the same day. I just can't get to it all. I have to do less of it on Sunday.
Well, like you said, I mean, the good thing maybe then is that it does start at 7 a.m. Because it'll maybe go 3 hours and be done by 10. The first college football game doesn't tip off till 11. So I think we're good there. It kind of works out. Get your drink of choice. I know you don't drink coffee, and just wake up and enjoy some early morning wrestling.
Yeah, we'll see. Nebraska's got Maryland that week, so I'm trying to think. I don't know what time that'll be. So we'll try to figure that out. We'll plan all for it. We'll get through it. It'll work. One more question I had for you about Crown Jewel to kind of get your thoughts. We've seen Cody already kind of show off his ring. Yeah, kind of interesting in sports. Obviously, you go for rings, and in WWE they go for the title belts. Recently we've seen sports teams over the last couple of years as WWE sells off their belts are celebrating more and more with their belts. Not a bad idea to bring the rings over into the wrestling world. And so Cody is I don't know if it was this week, last week, whatever it was, at some point opened up saying he wants to get 10 rings on his fingers. He's only got one. And so that seems to be yearly what they're going to do. We talk about stipulations and things that they look forward to for Crown Jewel year in and year out. Going to be fighting for some rings again. Introduced last year, trying to kind of keep it going here. I kind of like it.
Yeah, I do too. I think that was pretty fun, and they put a lot of design into it. It's big time. Like you said, they're starting to do it that way. So I'm curious. I think Liv Morgan will probably end up, sitting on the sideline or something just because she won. They'll do that there, and all that stuff. But yeah, I kind of do like it. It does make it interesting. But this is where I think it kind of takes away from a WrestleMania type of thing, because WrestleMania is known as like the Super Bowl, right? Like, I remember when we were younger, like the Undertaker was on 19 streak, and they were like, hey, that's like an NFL team winning 19 straight Super Bowls. First off, I was there like, okay, no, but that's how they want to make it feel. So, this would be winning like your conference championship or something, something like that, I guess. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And I know we're not the biggest Cody Rhodes fans. I think we're fine with it, but the fact that he's the champion second year in a row for this, I think that is pretty cool, because you don't know who's going to be champion each and every year that this goes on.
Well, we'll just see. I mean, obviously, again, you got to protect it, whatever it might be. I thought the Andre, me, I love the Andre the Giant Battle Royale. At one time, that seemed to be something special to win, and over the years, it kind of faded off into what it is now, which is on SmackDown. I still enjoy it, still look forward to it, but it does not translate to anything. It's not some big thing that you would put on your mantle, and they're trying to make these rings be part of that. So I think that could be interesting. Certainly it could be interesting too with Cody already having a ring, if they decide to go that route to kind of make him a guy that starts collecting those early on in their creation of this. Let's go ahead and take a quick break here on Nuclear Heat. Got plenty of wrestling to talk, as we will go through Raw and SmackDown when we get back here on 93.7 The Ticket.
At Valentino's, we're on a mission for tradition. On every slice, for every bite. Golden baked crust, cooked to perfection every time. Savory sweet sauce that's made from our own secret recipe. Loaded with the perfect amount of fresh toppings and melty mozzarella cheese. It's the tradition that Nebraskans have come to love. From game day to every day. Valentino's. Taste the tradition.
Give your furnace a break with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows. Heartland of Nebraska Windows offers a free estimate, full window replacements, all vinyl triple pane windows, and a lifetime warranty of everything, while still keeping their prices affordable. Sounds too good to be true, right? Heartland of Nebraska Windows is locally and family owned with their own team of installers. Give the window experts at Heartland of Nebraska Windows a call today at 402-430-3852 or visit them online at heartlandofnebraskawindows.com. Elevate your home or business with the help of Heartland of Nebraska Windows today.
A1 Automotive's second location is now open at 5110 State Hill Drive, just off of Yankee Hill Road. The new location continues to specialize in all makes and models and provides personalized service as they have for 15 years. With the school year here, A1 Automotive reminds you that college students get 10% off any service, and they offer free tire repair with a valid college ID. Schedule your appointment today at a1autolincoln.com and visit their new location in South Lincoln at 5110 State Hill Drive or downtown at 11th and L.
Have you been injured in an accident and don't know where to turn? You need an attorney you can trust to handle your case with professionalism and compassion. The attorneys at Liberty Law Group understand that a call to an attorney is a call for help. If you've been injured, we want to help you. Liberty Law's experienced attorneys are committed to the pursuit of justice for those injured. Call Liberty Law and find out how we can help you get the compensation you deserve. Call 877-42-LIBERTY. Call the trial attorneys you can trust. 877-42-LIBERTY.
Schweizo Construction is now hiring for skilled craftsmen, steel erectors, concrete workers, and general laborers. Schweizo Construction offers great benefits like premium wages, health and dental insurance, paid holidays and vacation, 401k with company match, life insurance, and disability insurance. They pride themselves on a legacy of 40 years built on integrity and trust. Joining their team means becoming part of a family that values hard work, dedication, and mutual respect. Apply today at schweizo.com. That's schwisow.com.
Since 1983, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs have been a trusted and reliable company in Lincoln and the surrounding areas. Fast Mike's handles all sides of construction projects, home renovations, or big cleanouts. With the perfect size dumpster to fit your needs, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs will haul it all. With same-day delivery in Lincoln, affordable rates, and top-notch service, Fast Mike's Roll-Offs make cleanup quick and easy. Call now at 402-450-6828 or visit us online at fastmikesrolloffs.com. Book your dumpster today. Fast Mike's Roll-Offs, cleanup made simple.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven, on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back to Nuclear Heat here on 93.7 The Ticket, where we talk wrestling every Sunday night from 9 to 10 o'clock. It's the WWE Weekend Review. We open the show talking about some of the big picture items, I suppose, this week, and we'll jump into Raw and SmackDown here in a second. I did want to say this because there's not going to be a whole lot of other time to talk about it. They just kind of snuck it in as a promo this week, but AJ Styles and John Cena, part of the card going forward in Crown Jewel. I don't know if they're going to give it a whole lot of build up. I mean, John Cena doesn't have many appearances left, so I don't know what you can really do. This was just kind of came from fans calling for it. I think Alex actually on Nuclear Heat, a couple weeks ago, asked. They listened, and now they're going to give him that match. So hopefully he's happy about that.
Hey, Alex spoke it. It happened. We need to get him on here a little bit more and kind of voice our complaints to him, and he can speak it into the universe, and we can make it happen. But yeah, John Cena has 4 appearances left. I think 4 in 3 months. You don't really know. Yeah. So at this point, everything they've done with Cena and all that, you just say, hey, he's gonna wrestle somebody. Here we go. Just put on a good wrestling match for us at these premium live events, and let's go with it.
Yeah, the energy in the building will certainly be crazy. People will be excited, regardless when he goes out there for these final appearances. It's just kind of interesting if you kind of look back on the booking of John Cena, how you'd get there, what are we doing? And I still wonder, and maybe they want you to wonder, what the last match is.
Mm-hmm.
This is just kind of, like I said, just kind of thrown together. AJ Styles isn't necessarily, his character's not necessarily going through the best stage of his career, I suppose. Yeah. He's just kind of putting over younger talent for the last couple of years. But it'll be an excellent match. It'll be fun to watch. But I'm not sure. It just seems kind of random. And you would figure with John Cena having so many dates all this time that they would have a bunch of plans kind of leading up to this.
Yeah. And do you think a big part of it too? I apologize if you have this on the show later, but do you think a part of this is that AJ Styles just announced that 2026 is his last year? So they're both retiring, so this is it for, and I know for John, obviously this is it, but the fact that AJ, I think last Sunday or something, he announced, hey, 2026 is my last year. And then I'm done wrestling too. So that, that could have been a deciding factor in it as well. Him saying, hey, I want to kind of go out one last time with Cena and kind of go from here.
Yeah. The only one can be the face that runs the place. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see who wins that battle.
Yeah. We'll have to see there. Oh, and then one quick thing I want to sneak in. Bad Bunny, WWE superstar.
That's right.
Halftime for the Super Bowl performer this coming season when the Eagles are going to be defending their championship there. So, that's going to be pretty cool.
How about that? Maybe Bad Bunny at some point can, I don't know, take out Damian Priest during the Super,
that'd be hilarious. Yeah.
Well, just go and take a high stage maneuver in the Super Bowl.
I mean, with ESPN, WWE, their partnership, we might be seeing Bad Bunny, on the lead up, I mean, you get some of because I think a lot of WWE fans are probably NFL fans, and things like that. And like you said, they're starting to have partnerships. The WWE titles are starting to make their way for championships and things like that. So, hey, he might, they might start promoting him there and everything. So could be really cool.
It's also been entertaining just because you brought that up too, to watch because ESPN, now that they have they have programming for WWE at times. They have, more, they put more importance on their website. There's a little WWE tab, all that stuff. So they've got a writer writing up reviews, and somewhere he hates everything WWE is doing. It's kind of funny just to see the report from ESPN so far has not been very kind to WWE since the deal's been
I think
made.
he gave WrestlePalooza a C-, and people are already calling for his job. But the funniest thing is, that when they were promoting WrestlePalooza, they had all these superstars on. The most hilarious part was when they had AJ Lee on SportsCenter, and they started asking her about the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams. She was the most honest person. She says, look, I know, CM Punk's from Chicago, all this stuff. She's like, but I don't know who Caleb Williams is. She's like, he sounds like a good guy. We'll go there. She's like, but I'm being honest. I don't watch football. I don't know who he is. And everybody's like, at least she was honest, because sometimes they'd be like, oh yeah, he's great. Nope. She was like, I don't know who that guy is. I'm sorry.
That's the best way. Hey, you don't want to sound like an idiot. Just say from the top. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, or, I don't know what that is. So I don't know. I think this whole partnership, while I'm a little skeptical of it, all that stuff, but we'll see. I mean, at least that guy, the writer, at least he's honest, because, then you got guys over here giving, the ending to the SmackDown, a 4 out of 5 stars, they're saying, oh, if that wouldn't have been botched, it's like, no, that brought it down to like a 2.
Yeah.
And things like that. So yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see if they do fire that guy, or maybe he's just doing it to create more buzz.
Yeah. Who knows? But I'll tell you one thing: YouTube TV better come to a deal with ESPN soon. I'm not paying $35 a month for that app. We got to get that done before next month, guys. Come on. Let's get into Raw here. Cody opened up about the crown jewel matchup versus Seth Rollins. Seth, of course, comes out to confront him. Kind of interesting. They don't have to do a whole lot here as far as, it's champ versus champ. It's all kind of obvious, and they do have history. So they use that history in this case. Cody mentions that he's 3-0 against Seth in singles matches so far. Seth, of course, helped be his shield versus Roman at WrestleMania 40. So they're using the past to kind of tie it in well. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker were out here, but no punches thrown during this. It's just kind of the tone setter for getting us ready for Crown Jewel.
Yeah, and I thought this was fine. This was good. You got Cody back. I know we talked about it. He's been back a little bit, but it feels like he's kind of been missing as your WWE champion on there. So I think this is fine, and I'm with you. I'm looking forward to these programs, that we're gonna have between Seth and Cody, and Paul Heyman, being involved in there, and kind of see who steps up for Cody and who's still the vision, because it looks like they officially added Becky Lynch in there too. So they got their whole group, and so we'll see who steps in and helps Cody here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And to your point too, Cody is in a legitimate feud now that he could lose, and it might not ultimately hurt him. So maybe the stakes aren't as high. But that's kind of the problem at times is Cody, kind of know, okay, SummerSlam, WrestleMania, what are we going to do between this, find these filler feuds? That's what kind of brought down the Drew McIntyre feud in my mind. And somehow they thought that was still worth main eventing at their last premium live event there in WrestlePalooza. But in any case, moving on. Jey Uso then kind of spurns Jimmy, who wanted a rematch with the Vision for this week. Jey instead wanted a match with LA Knight. Kind of jumping a few scenes here, but just to kind of stick to the story, Jimmy asked Cody to talk some sense into Jey, and we see that later, and Jey is eyeing Cody's belt. So we've seen more and more of Jey Uso kind of acting like Roman of the bloodline, if you will, and maybe being a little bit more focused on his solo career than anything to do with Jimmy. Certainly just frustrated with LA Knight. That would come to a match later in the night, but kind of interesting. What do you particularly think about Jey eyeing the belt of Cody when he's trying to help him?
I mean, we could see it if he turns heel, he goes after the title. I'd be like, okay, that's something fresh, because we've just kind of seen. I mean, we've seen kind of a heel Jey, but not like really solo as much. He was the good guy when Jimmy was the bad guy. So could be a mix up for his character on there. I don't want to see him win the belt. We'll say that because I don't think he is world championship material. And I still am having a hard time understanding why they would, why they would turn him heel, because it looks like they want him to be a tag team again with Jimmy. War Games happen, Roman, all that stuff comes back. And now they're, you can't beat them, join them, like all that stuff. To me, it's like, I don't think I know they get paid to do it, but it just feels like they're not thinking it through clearly there. And then they're going to hit like a roadblock, and it'll be one of those, he was heel for a couple months, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's going to snap back and be a good guy. And that's just not what I want to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. They've kind of almost got so far away from the original bloodline.
Yeah.
And certainly Solo Sikoa, especially going on his own, doing his own thing with his bloodline. That you wonder if it all is kind of tying back, because you could always do that and kind of bring, and that was the hottest angle, right? For years with Roman Reigns leading it. And if you kind of put Jay over, and as they have, and you know, kind of do what you will with Jimmy, maybe, you know, Sami Zayn continues his quest to be world champ, though they've got him kind of tied up with the US championship right now. They could kind of bring it back together for a WrestleMania angle, and I think it'd be fantastic. I'm not really against Jey Uso turning heel. I get what you're saying. It's just it is weird. It's hard to figure out where they see him, because clearly they wanted to light a match under him and do everything they could to get behind him leading up to WrestleMania. They gave him the belt there, of course, dropped it pretty quickly, and it's taken some pins since then. So are they, you know, was it kind of Kofi Mania, and then you're kind of over it and you want to put him back down to the mid card? I mean, his entrance again, we always talk about it, still so over. You know, maybe you want to ride that till you can, you know, as much as you can out of it. So I'd be interested in them turning him heel before they get you know, everything out of that. So we'll see. We move on then to a no DQ 6-man tag team match. Penta and the War Raiders against New Day and Waller. Plenty of kendo sticks used in this match, so that's always fun. This one never was one to be taken too seriously, I think. No. This whole feud. Penta ends up hitting a Mexican Destroyer from the top rope on Waller for the win. Potentially good into the feud, maybe more to it. I think they've just about run as much different ways to kind of get these 6 men together, and it's kind of just feels like, and we've been asking for it, hey, Penta's hot, put him into something, get him going. It's done that, but I don't. You can feel it. Like the stakes aren't very high, so it's not doing the ultimate goal of it.
No, not at all. And you know, we talked about it. We talk about it every show. They ruined the New Day. You know, they had so much heat, then they turned them into whatever this is, and they're putting Grayson Waller, you know, who is kind of just out there, into this, and Penta with the War Raiders. You know, it just doesn't. It just that doesn't look good for Penta, who. We bring this up every week too, you know, was one of the hottest debuts, was somebody with so much, you know, hype to him, and, you know, was in, you know, the #1 contenders match for the World Heavyweight Championship, you know, we were talking, hey, he's going to be a champion. Now they got him teaming with the War Raiders against this lower version of the New Day with Grayson Waller. That just doesn't sit well with me. I mean, they're discarding him essentially. Hopefully they move on and they're like, hey, let's bring him back to a decent feud on there. But yeah, this is something we know WWE likes to do it. They like to just keep dragging on all these storylines, but this is one, it needs to end for Penta's sake, or else he's going to end up in the jobber status that, I mean, he's a guy that's taking pins, you know, in some of these like higher stake matches. So in order for him to have a successful career and not be just a jobber, they got to do something.
Yeah, it's interesting. I would have been shocked if you would have told me shortly after his debut that he wouldn't have a singles title by now. You know, there's certain, like Julia,
yeah,
you know, it would be a certain case. Okay, just push him, put it. And Julia's been awful, but that's what I don't want to say awful, but there's been no buzz to her matches. But what I'm saying is Penta had all the buzz. Could have just thrown an Intercontinental or US title on him. And I'm glad they went with Dom when they did. But still, it's kind of surprising that this is where it's gone. And of course, everybody else, like you said, I mean, Waller, I thought was better with Austin Theory than anything. The New Day is about as the low point of they've been as a group. You know, trying to do something different. It's just, it took all the New Day specialness out of them. They're just kind of there. So we'll see what happens next there. Continuing, Dom had to convince JD McDonough to help him because Finn Balor was busy. So Finn Balor not willing to help Dom. But Dom had a match for McDonough against Rusev set up. So we can kind of get to that later in the night. Couple backstage segments here. Lyra Valkyria runs into the good Bayley backstage after, you know, knocking on the door. Bayley does not remember blowing up on Lyra Valkyria last week, kind of further telling you she's got this split personality thing going. Lyra Valkyria just cannot get away from Bailey. I think the storyline is maybe even better than championship based, though it was good with Becky. It just seemed like they maybe ran it back one or too many times. But all that stuff combined, I mean, I think this is as interesting as Bailey's been in a long time.
Yeah, it is. I don't hate me for saying this. It's kind of cringe the way it's playing out, but it makes sense. She kept saying, she was that good guy, trying to help. She was a bad guy. She's kind of done it all. And they're kind of running through, her former characters. And, she was a hugger just like 2 weeks ago, right after a match, which that was weird. That was weird to see that again out of Bailey, and things like that. But yeah, they got something going here. Hopefully it doesn't drag on too long, because then, we see what happens from there, because I think they might have to do something else with Lyra. But yeah, this is one, they're both good in the ring, and we'll see. 1 week it's good Bailey, 1 week it's bad Bailey. So, we'll see if they get matches out of it and kind of where they go with it. Cause like you said, there's no championship involved. So this is literally just, those two kind of just having a storyline. Maybe they'll team up in the end, and they'll be, that tag team they were supposed to be at WrestleMania, things like that. That never got to be. But yeah, we'll have to see what they do there.
Yeah, where this Bailey character ends is certainly going to be interesting. From there, we had the Stephanie McCure promo. Not much to say there. Is her dad ever going to be involved in a storyline? Seems like they're introducing him to the audience for some reason. I don't know if he's just, a proud dad or, what, but we'll see that down the line. We also saw Asuka and Rhea Ripley frustration hitting a boiling point. They had several kind of interactions backstage with all this, but it ultimately setting up a main event match between the two. So that was exciting. To that Bailey versus Roxanne Perez matchup. Of course, matchup of former NXT champions. Raquel Rodriguez ultimately gets involved. Lyra Valkyria equals the numbers, allowing Bailey to hit the Rose Plant for the win. But of course, as we were saying, Lyra Valkyria trying to embrace Bailey. Bailey pushes her off, and her heel persona kind of took over. We just kind of talked about that, but that's kind of how it folded out out in the ring. As far as McDonough's side of it, Rusev went out there and beat JD McDonough. Interesting enough, McDonough still a tag team champion. Always good for a singles loss. But always also good for putting on a pretty good show. Rusev kind of dominated a lot of this, but when McDonough started going, the crowd kind of got behind him. Anyway, ultimately, a Machka kick and an accolade from Rusev finished JD McDonough off, and he did not give up the accolade. Mysterio was frozen, didn't want to help, and so Finn Balor came in. He's frustrated that Dom didn't help, so we see more maybe dissension within the Judgment Day. It's funny how we've been saying that for like I don't know how long they've been a group. I think it's 2022 or like 3 years. Yeah, more dissension within the Judgment Day.
And this seems legitimate because this is Dom, like you said, he froze. He wasn't going to help break up the accolade that Rusev had on JD McDonough, and I think they're gonna have to pull the trigger here soon. We talked about it. We talk about it all the time, like you said. We've been talking about it since pretty much this show. We started doing this show. Finn Balor, we know what he can do. We know what he has. Dominic Mysterio, obviously, he's kind of, they know they have gold in their hands with him. They're building somebody with JD McDonough as well. Cause like you said, when he was getting going, he was getting a pop, everybody wanted to see him do something. And when he came into the Judgment Day, I was like, I don't know this guy. Why? This is a waste of space. Ever since he had that gnarly collision where he almost essentially lost his life and then came back, I'm like, I respect this guy. They're getting him more involved. Yes, he's still taking, pins and all that stuff, but man, they've kind of got something with him there, where he's becoming a fan favorite. So, he'll be part of this breakup, where he goes probably with Finn on there. And man, they can have something really nice there come WrestleMania season. But as they did with Damian Priest, it could either drag on or they could wait. And then in 2 years, when it's all said and forgotten, they're like, you know what? Remember when they were going to break up? Let's do that now. And then we're all going to be very disappointed.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. They kind of set it up so that they've always got several different angles they can go from. Of course, still waiting for Liv to come back at some point. They've kind of teased Roxanne siding with Dominic a little bit more. JD's kind of been on both sides at times. He's kind of been more with Mysterio when Finn Balor was focused in on Damian Priest. Now kind of more focused in with Finn Balor on Finn Balor's side. Finn Balor for a long time has kind of been setting up dissension. Yep. Now it looks like Mysterio's the bad guy of, so they just kind of got all these different angles working. Hopefully they can wrap it up all into something good, like you're saying, and not mess it up. LA Knight versus Jey Uso. Surprised this wasn't the main event, or maybe something we see at Crown Jewel. Still could be, but of course these guys wanted to get their hands on each other so much that Jey Uso, we've been talking about, went after LA Knight before the bell. So kind of some heelish tactics certainly popping up from Jey Uso in this segment. The Vision, Bronson Reed, and Braun Breaker show up distracting LA Knight. Should be distracting both of them. Jey Uso just said, whatever, I'll capitalize on this, delivers a spear and a splash for the win. And then as the Vision is attacking Knight post-match, he just walks off. Jimmy comes out with an equalizer, a chair to kind of make the save, but Jay has no interest. Obviously, still does not like LA Knight. The interesting thing is what's next here. Obviously, for everybody involved, Jey Uso, very intriguing character at this point to see what's kind of happening next with him. But LA Knight at some point's got to win something. I mean, again, is he better off for being in all of this? Maybe, because it's still kind of main event spotlight, that sort of stuff. And the crowd's still certainly behind him, but at some point, got to win a few matches.
Yeah, I know this is going to be ridiculous, but it's going to end up being LA Knight versus Jey Uso for the custody of Jimmy Uso. Because it seems like that's kind of the way it's going, right? Jimmy's the good guy right now. He's doing good guy things, helping LA Knight, but he's there with his twin brother. Things like that. I mean, this isn't a horrible feud, by any means. I think this is good for both of them, but it does almost look like Jay maybe needs a win more, just because, they're trying to go with the heel character kind of the first time in LA Knight, that, always the runner up, never the winner. Kind of getting used to that there. I would like for them to do something more, but I think that's where it'll end up being is LA Knight, Jey Uso, Jimmy's involved somehow, and then whoever he helps is kind of the way he turns with them too. So either he'll be the good guy or the bad guy with them.
Yeah, it is interesting because it's true. Like Jay, had that spear or whatever he hit on LA Knight at the end of that one show. I think it's a super kick.
Yeah,
and that's usually your heel turn is just that moment, and they're just kind of dragging on. Is he not? So we'll kind of see moving forward. Quickly, also let's get to Rhea Ripley versus Asuka to end up the night. Of course, this was a WrestleMania match at one point. Fans were chanting, "This is awesome." So they very much had a good match going on, as you would expect, between these two veterans. Asuka tried to get Kairi Sane to help, but to no avail. Miscommunication between the Kabuki Warriors allowed Rhea Ripley to roll up for the win. But more importantly tonight, and more interestingly, was what happened after the match. Asuka uses the blue mist. Always good to hold that back and then use it at a good time. Good time here on Rhea. And this mist covered Rhea as opposed to some that just a little bit gets on their face. This was all over Rhea, so she was basically useless for the remainder of the night. Kairi Sane joined in on the attack on Rhea Ripley before Io Sky comes out to try to make the save. Then all of a sudden, Asuka slaps Io Sky finally, and then at a certain point too, Kairi Sane joins in reluctantly at first, but then I think we see the kind of the heel turn, like we've been saying, kind of can happen all at once. Certainly happened here. For the Kabuki Warriors, RIP Damage Control. They never really had an end to it. They just kind of moved on from it. And these are former Damage Control members getting involved. I don't think Bailey's going to get involved in this one.
No.
Dakota Kai is no longer on the roster, but this is what we're talking about. Perhaps could have had the belt as part of this, but they don't necessarily need it. I mean, this breakup of longtime friends is a star match waiting to happen with Asuka and Io Sky, but it looks like, and I would assume with them going to Crown Jewel in Perth, Australia, that Rhea Ripley will be part of a tag team. So probably going to be Io Sky tagging with Rhea Ripley here against the Kabuki Warriors.
Yeah, it's a good match, right? It's a good match, and all the build up there. I know I'm the constant complainer on this, right? But the fact that it's going to be in Perth, Australia, which way it's going to go, but it could still be a good build up. And Rhea Ripley looking like a Smurf, was pretty funny. And I saw the backstage, she was on X, Twitter, all that stuff, covered, taking pictures with everybody. So that's interesting there. But yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to see an Io Sky versus Asuka one-on-one. I think those two would be amazing in the ring. But they got to add Rhea Ripley in there. They've had her in there, and then Kairi Sane, all 5 foot, 90 pounds of her is gonna, be involved in this as well. So yeah, good storyline. I think this could be a fun match for Crown Jewel.
Yeah, I think it will be. To your point, though, it is always interesting. Sometimes you put the good guys versus the bad guys, but there's this kind of overwhelming bad guy. And Asuka can carry that, but just on paper, it doesn't look like a fair match. No. And that's nothing, again, to Kyrie saying again, but she doesn't have a whole lot of character development. She's tiny, so it's always interesting just to see how they do that. It wouldn't necessarily be an upset if the good guys win that one. But nevertheless, it will be a crowd pleaser. We'll take a quick commercial break. We'll be back here to wrap up Nuclear Heat and talk some SmackDown on 93.7 The Ticket.
Harvest season is coming, and Acres has discounted many of our late model John Deere combines. Get thousands in discounts and upgrade for this year's harvest. Plus, you could save even more with interest rates starting as low as 1.9% on select units. Low interest rates combined with our huge discounts, there's not a better time to buy. Visit acres.com for all the details. That's AKRS.com. Restrictions apply. Offer ends August 31st, 2025. Subject to approved financing. Offer may change at any time without notice.
Back to Nuclear Heat with your host, Jake Bockoven on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
We're back here on Nuclear Heat. Going to jump into some SmackDown as we got a few minutes to do so. Booker T filling in for a commentator still as Corey Graves is out from the Brock Lesnar attack, if you will. So I always like when they kind of protect that. Paul Heyman opens up. Cody was supposed to, so he comes out pretty quickly. Paul Heyman was kind of fighting off the crowd with OTC chants and stuff. Interestingly enough, Cody seemed more interested in Brock Lesnar and the connection there than with Seth Rollins. Of course, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed would come out shortly. Cody is the one that decides to attack them. And then Randy Orton's music hits, and he makes the save here. Good setup for a tag team match, obviously, but at some point, we all know Randy Orton and Cody are going to have to collide and fight, and you expect, obviously, for Randy Orton to turn. Brock Lesnar being kind of there in the background. Again, Seth Rollins, the matchup coming up at Crown Jewel. A lot of big name characters involved and kind of hanging around the edges of this feud. I think it's going to make it very fascinating.
Yeah, it will. And, I thought this was a fun way to start SmackDown, the best way there. And we wanted a Cody versus Randy. And like you said, hey, if we get a triple threat, Cody, Randy, Brock, I mean, can we really complain? The only thing that really kind of irks me is just the way they ended the Brock John Cena kind of thing. It's Brock's now moving on, to apparently something else.
Yeah.
Outside of John Cena on there. But yeah, no, it was fun. And Paul Heyman kind of acknowledging, hey, yeah, Brock's still my guy, so I think we're going to see that pair for War Games, and I think that could be pretty fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun no matter what they do. They almost can't mess this up. So a lot of big names in there. From there, we already talked about the main event, so we won't spend too much on that. But we kind of quickly go through the rest of SmackDown. Street Profits versus Mellow Don't Miz, rematch of what they've had recently. So that takes away a little bit of the stakes from it. Also, I'm forgetting the Scary Crow, Bo Dallas and his crew,
Bo Dallas,
seemingly are kind of bothering both these tag teams. They're just kind of absent in this case. So, you kind of feel like these are the second fiddle tag teams in the overall kind of thought of it. Not to say, the individual talents in here are fantastic, but this was more the story of the Profits, one being back on the same page, a little bit of break from them feuding a little bit with one another. Not so much the case with Mellow Don't Miz, though. As Bello was preparing for his finisher, Miz tags in instead, and the Profits take advantage, and then Mello decides not to save Miz. I'm more interested in them as a tag team than a breakup at this point. So I hope they're just kind of teasing that.
Yeah, I am too. And I thought it's not the greatest thing, but it's still something good for Mello, right now to be with the Miz. But yeah, I think it'd be too soon to break them up. They got to stay together.
Yeah, there's no singles direction for either of them. Of course, you can throw. They both have been on their career just throwing into anything. Yeah. You can do that with the Miz at any time. I just think there's enough interesting about them. We'll see if WWE feels the same. I don't think there's enough interesting about this Julia Kiana James versus BFAB and Mishin thing they try to kind of force on us. And I feel bad because Mishin's always caught in these feuds.
Yeah.
I almost feel like I'm against or anti-Mishin. I think if properly booked, but she's always just purposely placed in these middling feuds that just, I just don't know. They're not the greatest. In this one, Mishin hits her finisher on James, but Julia makes the save. hits the Northern Lights bomb for the win. And the crowd is not interested at all.
No, and they made the biggest mistake taking that U.S. title belt off of Chelsea Green, who had something, and then you had Zelina Vega, who's not even, I don't even know where she's at, and now Julia, and then you give it to Julia, which, okay, good stepping stone, but they've done nothing. They have her, like you said, against me. They have her against, I hate to say this, the bottom of the barrel when it comes to the performers, and we talk about it, SmackDown is maybe lacking a lot. That Chelsea Green with that title was doing something great, and now this is what they're doing with it.
Yeah, it just in my mind has not gone anywhere well for that. By the way, speaking of that, Piper Niven might be out for some time, so Chelsea Green looking to, as we saw on this SmackDown, looking to find some extra help for her Secret Service. Interesting, that Sol Ruka and Zariah were backstage looking. They wanted to go after Charlotte and Alexa Bliss's belts. Charlotte and Alexa told them get to the back of the line, so that could be something we'd see coming up down the line. Drew McIntyre came out complaining as he does. Nick Aldis tells him that's enough, but more importantly, Jacob Fatu comes out and ends up attacking McIntyre, hits him with the leg brace. Good to see Jacob Fatu back in the mix there. Any thoughts on that feud upcoming?
I mean, it's going to be fun, but they've completely dropped Jacob Fatu. He lost the U.S. title, and now Solo, it's not even with Solo anymore, and there's no payoff to it. And, he and Drew are great performers, but I mean, this is just hey, here's a filler, filler feud here.
Yeah, they're going to have to find something to kind of get behind those guys, because it can be excellent if there's enough of a story there. Sami Zayn has his U.S. Open challenge. Javon Evans comes from NXT. So we kind of get the introduction there. Sami Zayn, though, hits the Haluva kick and Blue Thunder Bomb for the win. U.S. challenge partially kind of putting people over all that. But again, on a night where you already have Juliet and Kiana James against PFAP and Mishin, I don't know. It was just kind of more of the same of kind of an old, not like, I think as you put it, not the greatest SmackDown on paper.
Yeah.
But in any case, then we had the Solo Sikoa promos, which are really tough to watch. Trying to hype up his stable. Last week it was Tonga Loa. You can't undo what you've done. What we've seen with our eyes to Tonga Loa, and then this week to JC Mateo. You just can't put over that group. It's not believable right now. Sure, next week we'll have a promo for Tala Tonga, but I don't know if that's going to help too much. So we'll see what they can do there. The only other thing, like I said, Tiffany, Nia Jax, and Jade Cargill to finish it up. And we talked about that at the beginning of the show. The only other thing from that show was another Aleister Black attack on Damian Priest, Black Mass in the back. So that feud continues despite I don't know if there's a whole lot of build to it, but I don't know if they have anything necessarily for either one of them right now. So something to do, some TV.
Yeah, they really don't. I just think they need to just combine the rosters again and just have the storylines from Raw bleed over to SmackDown, because outside of like one or two segments for SmackDown, it's getting rough. It's getting very rough. The main superstars are over there on Raw, and Friday night is we're getting a little bit older, so that's I like to stay in Friday nights and watch SmackDown, and sometimes I find myself like, this is this wasn't the greatest doing it. Yeah, this wasn't the greatest SmackDown on there. So, and SmackDown is good Friday night because it doesn't have Monday Night Football or anything, like that. So, they should put more product on SmackDown to make it, feel like the show again.
It does. It feels like sometimes they try to see what they can get over on SmackDown. And sometimes, there's been a long history of an A show and a B show. Feels like that wasn't necessarily the case for a while, but it's starting to linger back over into that territory for Raw once again. That'll wrap it up for Nuclear Heat this week. Thanks for joining myself and Augie Pena. We'll be back next week to talk about this upcoming week of WWE wrestling. We look forward to that. And again, tell your wrestling friends about us.